Are you ready for another great episode from Season 2 of Take a Timeout with Dustin Sullivan? We're kicking off in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Take a Timeout with Dustin Sullivan, a production of the Can Do Group. Can Do Group is a 501c3 nonprofit provider of services for adults with developmental disabilities and is pleased to bring you this podcast. Today we welcome Kevin Lewis, our very own Can Do Group Director of Operations. Kevin has worked at Can Do since 2019, starting as a community support professional. With his natural leadership skills, Kevin grew in this role, taking on more and more responsibility. His work peers quickly recognized that he had a special skill set that was incredibly valuable to Can Do. When the time came to recruit for a new director of operations, Kevin was encouraged by his peers to apply. August 1st, 2022, Kevin Lewis took on his new role at Can Do Group. Kevin has a bachelor's in science, is it? BS?
BS in sports medicine.
In sports medicine and a master's in health informatics. He was a university instructor for 24 years and owned a business for 5. He has worked rehab and has trained athletes from grade school to Olympic hopefuls. His new role at Can Do is enriched by his blend of experiences. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Take it, Dustin.
Where are you originally from?
I was born in Southern California in the Garden Grove area, Anaheim, Disneyland. So I started out my life a mile from Disneyland.
Pretty cool.
And my father had moved there to work, and so all my siblings and I were born out there. But then my parents were originally from Ohio, so I've basically grown up most of my life in Ohio, and particularly southeast Ohio. So I'm from a small farming community by the name of Barnesville, Ohio, and it's about 30 minutes from Wheeling, West Virginia, and about 30 minutes from Cambridge, Ohio, just south of Interstate 70. So I grew up in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, and it was a wonderful little community to grow up in. But as most small communities, there's not a ton of opportunities for what I chose as a career. So it ended up branching me out and bringing me to Northwest Ohio.
And it's beautiful up in the Appalachians.
It is the view out my
down in the Appalachians.
Yeah, the view out my parents' back window. For a while, wasn't very pretty because there was a lot of strip mining that went on in the 1970s. And once that was reclaimed and grew back in, now it's very, very scenic to look out and a lot of wildlife and things like that.
What sports did you play growing up?
Well, I played anything that they would let me play. When I got into more organized sports, it was football, basketball, and baseball. But I had a cousin who was a really good tennis player. So growing up, I actually played some tennis, and we had little local tennis ladders. And I'll tell you a quick story about me, which you already know probably. Yeah. But one year I played in this tennis ladder, and they just chose us randomly for our starting spots. And then you could challenge a couple spots above, and if you won, you moved in. So like I was selected at like 7, so I could challenge the number 4 player, and I beat him. And then I challenged the number 1 player, and I beat him. And my competitive drive at that point in my life was so crazy high that I tried to bury people, and so I got to number 1 and nobody would play me. So I only got to play 3 matches the whole summer because once I got to number 1, I couldn't get anybody to challenge me. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Dustin, but that's a little bit about me. I'm not quite that competitive anymore, but at one point in my life, I said I was competitive to a fault.
I think competitive. I think that sounds just like me.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't broken any TVs though.
No, or trash cans.
Run into any trash cans.
Did you play any other sports at the university?
When I went to college, I went to Marietta College, and I did go with aspirations of playing basketball. And so I started out on the basketball team trying out, and it really ended up not being a good fit for me for many reasons, which I don't need to go into detail.
Yeah.
This interview could go on for days.
Yeah.
But it just ended up not being a good fit for me, and I knew I wanted to be in sports medicine and keep my link to my love for sports. And so at that point in time, I started playing intramurals and just being a full-time student and trying to really dedicate myself to learning about the human body and injury and recovery and all that sort of thing. So
Kind of cool.
You said Marietta, right?
Marietta College.
I've heard of that.
Is that where you received your...
Is this where you received your bachelor's degree?
Yeah, Marietta College was my bachelor's degree, and actually I wasn't considered a double major, but to make myself more marketable, I got a teaching certificate for 7th through 12th grade in biology, so that if my aspirations to work at, say, a college or professional level of athletic training didn't come about, I could go to a high school and work as a teacher. I never needed to utilize that, but I did get a certificate in education biology and the bachelor's in sports medicine. So it was a busy time in my life because I shoved all that into 4 years, and so
Yeah. It goes quick, 4 years.
it did go very quick.
Where did you receive your master's degree?
So I did my master's degree here at the University of Findlay, and part of that was born out of to teach more courses, I had to have a master's degree. And I didn't want to, I had been working in the field of sports medicine and strength and conditioning performance for 20 plus years at that point in time. And I didn't really want to do a degree that was parallel to that. So I decided to branch out into the health informatics area so that I could work a little bit more in administration if I wanted to, and work a little bit more on the numbers, so to speak, that go behind healthcare. At that time, healthcare, but really informatics is used in about every industry. So sports has gotten big into that. Baseball the most, but even football and basketball are really doing a lot of informatics type study around that. So I'm trying to utilize that and think of ways, even with Can Do, that we can get a little bit more informatics and metrics driven about how we make our decisions with regard to programs. So it's something that I started out with intentions for one thing, to get more teaching opportunities, but it's turned into something I can use in any arena I'm in.
That's kind of cool. As a university instructor, what did you teach?
I taught in the College of Health Professions, and so primarily early on in my teaching career, I taught some athletic training classes, but primarily I spent time teaching exercise science, programming classes, teaching them how to develop strength and conditioning programs, exercise programs. I taught a course in special populations, so we'd talk about how to design exercise programs for people with multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, cancer, any number of conditions that people deal with in the world, and how, so it's not necessarily bad for them to exercise, but how do you manage that and make that be a program that's beneficial for them. So even I worked with some ALS clients, and that was a lot of fun for me because you don't want to wear them down, but you want to keep them active and stimulated and keep the flexibility. So what was fun for me with that was it was a little bit out of the box thinking, and one of my people I worked with was, their doctors were at Ohio State University, and the other one was Cleveland Clinic. And as we got into this, at first they were kind of like, "Oh, I don't know, what are you really doing here?" And then as we went along, they're like, "This is really great," because they were maintaining a lot more flexibility and balance and things like that than a lot of the ALS clients early on they were seeing. So it's not anything I ever published or studied thoroughly, but it was fun for me because I took some of the things that I would do athletically and brought it way down to a different level so that it was not a hindrance to them. And we found that there was some benefits and some value. So I always enjoyed that part of my job.
What were all of the things you did while working in the athletic training department at the University of Findlay?
What were all the things I did? Excuse me. My primary responsibilities sports-wise were football in the fall. And then once wrestling started in late October, I shifted over to where I was the sole athletic trainer for the wrestling program. And then when indoor track started, I was splitting time between indoor track and wrestling. And then when that ended, I was the outdoor athletic trainer for the outdoor track team. So I basically had 3 different teams. And during those years, I was on a plane probably once a month, if not more, throughout the year, because the University of Findlay's wrestling programs and track programs were competing against Division I teams all the time. So we got to go to Las Vegas. We got to go to national duels in Nebraska. A lot of different fun places that we got to go. And again, just like Can Do, that opportunity kind of morphed into, wouldn't call myself the traveling secretary, but I would hold the airline tickets, and I would make sure we had a place to eat, and I would drive a van, and I would get involved in a lot of different things. So, doing so, occasionally I'd be going home and Coach would say, hey, do you have time to go watch this guy wrestle? I'm thinking about recruiting him. So I wasn't a recruiter, but occasionally he would give me an opportunity to go out and watch some kids wrestle. And so it really morphed into being a large part of the wrestling program beyond the athletic training. And so I had the good fortune while I was here to be a part of the 1995 Wrestling National Championship team and the 1995 Football National Championship team. And so those are two of my treasured moments and memories of working with the University of Findlay and being in the athletic training field.
Man, I need a piece of gum before we continue.
Okay.
I wish you would have been able to see his championship rings. I've seen them before.
Yeah, I brought my national championship rings in and showed to Dustin. I can bring them sometime. So, yeah, they're fun mementos and conversation pieces. I wasn't thinking like Weldy. I didn't bring my stock. So.
I got it. How long did you own a gym for?
I was in that business for about 5 years, and I didn't own the business. The business owned me.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about being a business owner and the do's and the don'ts. And so it was a great experience. It just wasn't an experience that I could maintain for a long time. My plan when I started it was to be in it for much longer than I was. But if you ever own a business, you understand that's a lot that goes into it. And so at a certain point, I made the personal decision that it was best for me to not continue to be a business owner and jump back into being more the instructor and the athletic trainer and strength coach that I was.
It's not on here, but how did you make that jump from the university to going into the gym?
Well, I had, again, some people in town that approached me that had some thoughts around doing this, and so I partnered up with some other people as just random conversations came about, and we decided, this could be a good opportunity. So then there was 3 of us that started that, but it was really just kind of a random thing that came about. So when I worked at the university, I had a 9-month contract. So in the summertime, I got a personal training certificate, and I would go to the gyms around town and I would train people to make a little side income. And in making those relationships, I ended up meeting some people, and they're like, hey, we'd really like to do a gym idea. It's something you'd be interested in being involved with. And I'm like, yeah, I think I would. And so it just kind of spawned out of just, again, I can't keep my nose out of things maybe. And I just, you get involved with things that you don't ever expect you will. And so it was kind of random how that all came about.
Kind of cool stuff. Did you work with any well-known athletes through your life?
Well, I've worked with several athletes that went on to play college athletics, but I am trying to think if there was one particular one that went on to big time things. And I as far as you might know their household name, I don't think I've had any of those. However, University of Findlay, we had a lot of great wrestlers. Bubba Taylor, he's a legend around here, obviously, and Miran Karchalava was a Russian wrestler who came to the United States, and he wrestled at the University of Findlay, and he was actually internationally known for his wrestling abilities, and he had won many international tournaments, and I believe eventually got to compete in the Olympics. So he would probably be the one that went the furthest up the athletic chain that they actually had an opportunity to work with. But I've worked with a ton of extremely talented athletes, and we had a lot of great success with the teams that I worked with over the years at Tiffin Columbian, Findlay High School, Van Buren, and so that's always been a great pleasure of mine to have been able to be a part of all those different schools and teams.
Before you know it, Luke will be like a legend someday.
We hope so. Now, I did get to work with Luke from the time he was in 4th grade. So if he makes it big, I always tease him. I get at least one big toe of that. So,
I think you will.
so I hope he does. If that's what his goals and aspirations are, that's what I hope for him as well as all the other athletes I worked with. But we always stressed in our workouts, Dustin, that we'd work out for 4 weeks and then I'd give them a week off. And every time I'd say, so what are you going to do on your week off? And they'd say, work on my foot skills. And I'd say, no. Jump rope? And I'd say, no. I said, get your grades. Go to class, get your grades, catch up on your academics. And so we always tried to keep that in mind, that you got to have the backup plan, as Luke mentioned when he interviewed with you. You always got to have that backup plan because your body's not going to take you as far as your brain in most instances.
So if you don't have the grades, you're not going to make it.
No, you're not going to get a chance to play. You're not going to be eligible in the first place. Yeah. But again, there's a whole lot of life after sports for most people, and
That's
so
true.
you gotta be willing to exercise that brain too.
Yep. Do you have any life mottos or quotes to inspire the people you train with?
Oh, Dustin, I've probably got too many of them to even mention, but
I probably would too.
I'll just share one funny thing I used to do with my students is we came up with the top 10 list of things not to say to your clients to motivate them, and so I'll share that with you offline sometime instead of here. But it was kind of a funny project I did with my students at the University of Findlay to try and keep them interested in how to motivate people and whatnot. So it kind of became a David Letterman top 10 list. That was when David Letterman was popular. So I did this as a joke for my class. But mottos, most of my stuff, I'm not an inventor of the wheel. I'm a user of the wheel. So I hear things that people say and bring about, and I usually share those with others. So do I have any of my own? I don't think I do.
I think I'm a pretty good motivator for people. I like to motivate people.
Yep, and everybody has their own way of accomplishing that.
What is your favorite thing about working with athletes?
I think my favorite thing is just, again, seeing them achieve and to be excited about what they're doing. I had the good fortune again of having an opportunity to run a workout on Saturdays for years, and parents would always come and say, I can't get my kids out of bed to do anything in the morning, but they don't want to miss this, so they wake right up. And so that always made me feel really good because that told me they were invested and they were excited about what they did. And I think that was one of my greatest pleasures was seeing them achieve and seeing them grow. And being able to be patient, because some kids learn things in 3 days and some kids in 3 weeks and others in 3 months. And just, again, seeing them accomplish those milestones as they went through my program. And some of them I would have for 6 and 7 years, throughout the year doing training programs with me. So I got to see them grow from young folks into young adults and, the people they became. So I always told them in 30 years, if you don't remember my name, I'm okay with that, but I hope you remember some of the lessons and that you were treated well. So those were the important things for me working with athletes.
That's some great stuff to explain. What is your favorite thing about working at Can Do?
My favorite thing about working at Can Do? I think it's my coworkers and the people I get to encounter every day and the clients that I get to encounter every day. You all as individuals are, to me, very inspiring of what you do and what you accomplish and just the joy that you get out of what Can Do is able to be a part of and bring to the lives of others. And so we have, and I hope most people realize this, but we have a phenomenal group of people, a staff of people that work there. And what I do as a director, you realize quickly you can't do without the support and the knowledge and the talents of all those people around you. So I view my job as trying to, just like a coach, bring as much of that out of the staff as I can, because it's there, and I just need to allow them to bring it forth.
Yeah.
And so that's what I enjoy most, is that we have an excellent staff, an excellent group of individuals and parents and everything. So the mundane tasks that you do every day, I enjoy that grind and that work, but my favorite part is the people.
It's a good place to go to. It makes you feel like, I like going there because it makes me feel like I'm getting more independent. I can do a lot more stuff.
Awesome. That's
a good place for people.
That's our goal.
I wish more people would know about it because it's a great place.
We'll keep working on that. And your podcast is one of those things that we're having to get the word out there. So,
what does your job as a director of operations entail?
Well, it entails again focusing a little bit on the present day and what we're doing with programs and everything that goes into running a business. But even more, I'm going to rely on, again, the staff to really take care of that day to day. So a lot of my focus moves out toward what our future looks like and what are we going to do in 2023 and 2024 and beyond. So, as the director, you have to be able to look forward and try and stay in front of changes that may occur and also be creative about what opportunities you want to create for individuals so that, again, that independence that you're talking about that you feel and those opportunities are continuing to grow and advance. So that's primarily what I do as the director.
I think it's going to, in a couple of years, I think it's going to feel bright or something. I'm trying to think of the word. Yeah.
We have a bright future.
Bright future, that's what I was trying to.
Yeah, I think we have a bright future, and we just have to stay the course. And I always say, and this was another one I'm sure I learned it from somebody, methods come and go, principles stand the test of time. So we try and be principled about what we do and what we offer, because then we'll always have a foundation. How we achieve that's probably going to change throughout the course of our existence, and we can do that. But our principles, we got to stand on those.
Yeah. What made you decide to work at Can Do in 2019?
Well, I had more or less retired, I'll say, from my previous profession of being an instructor and being an athletic trainer, and really things just kind of came to a natural end, and I had really not much to do. I had some individual clients I still worked with, but I took about 9 months and just kind of decompressed a little bit and caught up on some sleep I probably lost over the last 30 years. And I had gone on Indeed and probably searched 30 or 40 different companies in the Findlay area that were looking for help. And Can Do kept coming up, and occasionally I would come back to it. And then one day I just walked in the front door and said, "Hey, I've seen your ads in Indeed. Are you guys still looking for help?" And Lindsay said, "Yeah," and walked into Mike's office, and she said, "Do you have time to do an interview right now?" And I said, "Yep." And that was the start of it. So it was just kind of a random, walked in off the street, said, "Are you still looking for help?" I told him I preferred to just get involved with transportation and driving. That's what I did for the first couple of years, and then you all know the rest of the story.
Sometimes things are just meant to be.
Well, Dustin, I've had that good fortune in my life that I never had to look for very many jobs.
Yeah.
I told people the only 2 jobs I ever looked for was the first job I had and this current job.
Yeah.
Everything in between were opportunities that were just growing out of things that I did and people seeing value in what I did. And so I guess my experience has been if you don't force a lot of things, a lot of times good things just come your way. You try and maintain a good attitude about it, try and do your job to the best of your ability, be a good coworker, be a good person, be positive. And I think that's contagious, and it just grows. So I've had that good experience throughout my whole career.
Do you have some rewarding and memorable parts of your job at Can Do you want to share or not share?
Well, I'm early enough in that we haven't got to some of the hopes and dreams I have as far as the rewarding stuff for us. So I can't think of anything off the top of my head to share on that front. But maybe if we follow up on that in a year or two, there'll be a lot more exciting things to talk about. So I've been in the position for 3 months, and so I'm still learning and growing. And I just made the comment to somebody the other day, I hope that there's never a day that comes that I don't continue to learn something new about the job I do, because I'm a lifelong learner and I want to continue to be that. So Can Do's going to, I think, continue to provide that for me. But hopefully in a year or two we can revisit and look back on all the great things that we've done.
That's true. Do you support any charities?
Well, yes, I don't have any particular ones. I used to be a pretty regular supporter of MS, multiple sclerosis, and that was geared around my fitness side of me, because I'd do the Bike to the Bay every year, and I'd raise $500 to $1,000 and go ride 150 miles in a couple of days, and so I did a lot of charities that way. Now my charities are probably a little less set like that, and they're more random acts of kindness in areas that I see people maybe need support or donations and things like that. So don't have anything in particular. It's more when I become aware of something, if I can get involved, then I try to.
Seems like the city of Findlay is good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've got a great city with regard to a lot of supportive organizations and individuals.
Why did the chicken cross the playground?
Oh, goodness. Why did the chicken cross the playground? I've probably heard this one, but I don't know.
To get to the other side.
To get to the other slide. Okay. I got it.
We had to throw in
You're always good for a joke.
If you could be any supervillain, who would it be?
Oh, man, I don't have much villain in me.
A
Super villain.
Yeah, it's a flip on things, right? You want to be like all positive in these things,
I'd probably want to be Optimus Prime, because I like the Transformer movies and all that stuff, but I don't have much villain in me, but I always thought Optimus Prime was kind of a cool super villain.
What about you, Alex?
I wasn't prepared for this either. Gru, yeah, from Minions, because he's got a big heart. He's a villain, but he's not really a villain.
Yeah, and actually, we just mentioned in another interview, I said I wanted to be Kronk. Because he's just, yeah. That's a hard one. That's a hard one to be.
I don't know if he's a super villain, but the Grinch would be fun too, because he actually finally came around and found his heart.
Yeah,
so
that is a good
I wouldn't
one.
mind being the Grinch.
Yeah, that is a good one too.
I would like to be a Scrooge. Not literally. What would your superpower be?
Oh, my superpower. Oh, I could tell a joke. I guess I'd want my superpower to be, I want to be a peripheral visionary, so I could see into the future, but only way off to the side.
I don't think I'd want to know
peripheral vision.
I don't think I'd want to know that. Do that. Be able to.
That's an interesting superpower. I've never heard of a
That's an old
superpower
joke
like
from a
that.
comedian years and years and years ago. He would joke that he was a peripheral visionary and he could see into the future, but only way off to the side.
Yeah.
So
I like your Greek saying.
yeah, my father. I brought a friend home from college, and he was from Bolivia, South America, and he was fluent in Portuguese, English, and Spanish. And I don't remember how that came up in dinner conversation. But my dad was very much a good joker, and he said to this young guy, he says, that's nothing. He goes, I speak everything but Greek. He's like, go ahead and say something. And so this guy rattles off something in Portuguese, and my dad looks at him and goes, hey, pal, that's Greek to me. So that's how that joke became Dustin as my dad. I don't know if he heard that somewhere.
Dad's always had the best jokes.
His other one was always, why are you slowing down for the train? It's already gone by because it left its tracks. So he would always,
That's true.
that's his dad humor that he always imparted.
What would you do if you won the lottery?
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, what would I do if I won the lottery? I would probably have a whole nice new building for all my can-do clients
That's awesome.
and staff to enjoy. Is what I would do with if I won the lottery tomorrow. That's probably what I would do.
Alex, if I won the lottery, I would buy you a new studio.
A nice bigger studio.
Yeah.
I could go in on that too, I guess.
No, it was kind of funny because just in the last interview, I said, you can tell if somebody loves their job because if you answer the lottery question with applying that money towards something in your job, it's probably a thing that, you do love your job, it's a kind of a sign.
Sometimes
When you want to put the money towards.
So I gave a good answer.
Yes, you
All
did.
right. All
We were
right.
testing you. No.
sometimes there's more to life than just money. I know it's good to have money, but there's other things in life.
Yep.
What is a nutritionist's favorite food? Coffee is not an answer. Not a food.
I can't use coffee as my answer.
No, that's not a food.
Coffee is not a
What's
food,
my
so
favorite?
What is your favorite food?
My favorite food. Well, I have a pretty broad palate, so I like a lot of foods. I mean, I'd have to be honest and say I really love pizza. I enjoy pizza a lot, but I also enjoy foods like you would never think. So my grandmother made this dish that Jody just got to experience, called spinach loaf. And I think it was born out of probably the Depression era, because my grandparents were born in 1905, and so they were adults during the time when there wasn't much. So she'd put 2 big cans of spinach and 2 eggs, a pound of sausage, and cracker crumbs, and mix them together and bake it in a 9 by 13 dish, buttered dish, and it would come out kind of like a meatloaf, but it was made out of some meat and mostly spinach. So it's one of my favorite dishes, and she'd make it primarily at the holidays and things like that. And my
Tell us the truth.
my aunt used to make a real good oyster dressing.
Yeah.
And so I know most people don't like that kind of stuff, so I have some different things that I like around the holidays that kind of have some sentimental memories for me about my aunt and my grandmother and things like that.
Like
My
eggnog.
mom made oyster dressing.
Yeah.
If you spinach loaf, that would have been Popeye's favorite meal if he would have been around to eat it.
Now my third favorite food, and I'd be doing her a disservice if I didn't say that the best cook that's ever been in my life is my mother. And I like anything my mother makes, because my mother made chicken and dumplings. She made, you name it, my mom made it. She loves to cook, always has, still does to this day. And so anything my mother makes, I'm eating.
Yeah, same thing like me. Whatever my dad makes, I love his food the best. He just makes it with the heart. What do you like to do in your free time?
Oh, goodness. Well, fitness used to be my real pastime and all that. These days, I'm sad to say I don't get as much of that done. I need to get back to doing more of that. But, Dustin, in my free time, I probably just relax. I do a little camping here and there, but not, not a lot. And so, I don't have a lot of hobbies anymore. Probably when I was younger, I had more hobbies. But, I lead a pretty plain life these days, and I'm okay with that, because I've had a lot of good experiences. I've got to travel a lot in my lifetime and see different places. So I'm at a point in time where, just enjoying some downtime and not having a lot of extras is fun for me.
Camping's good because you can get off the grid and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, you can.
But sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes
Depends on what you like. Some people really get extreme about it, and others don't.
I used to like going camping for the fishing and the campfires and those s'mores. We hope this is far down the road, but what are your plans after retirement?
Well, I don't know, Dustin. I'm kind of a year-to-year guy. I think more year over year versus where I see myself in 5 or 10 years with regard to retirement. But someday I'd like to move to a warm climate where I can enjoy, being outdoors most of the year and things like that. But that's probably a decade away for me in terms of being able to do those sort of things. But I don't know if it would be Florida or somewhere else, but I'd like to be somewhere where I can enjoy the outdoors more frequently than just from June to October like we do in Ohio. So.
If I had ever choose 2 places to live between, it'd be Hawaii or San Diego, California.
Well, I would love to go live there in both those places with you.
Yep.
But I, financially, I look at,
it's expensive.
How much can I afford?
Do you have family in California still?
I had 2 nieces that were there until recently. They both moved back to Ohio in the last year. but I have not had family there very often. My one niece married a guy she met in college that was from Pasadena, and so that's what took her out there. Was after she did an internship there, and then after they got married, they lived in California for I don't know, maybe the first 10 years they were married, and then they've recently moved back to Ohio. So I still have family friends from my parents that are out there that when I go visit California, I'll go see them. And my dad had a cousin that lived in San Diego that I would go see when I would get to the San Diego area, but not as much family anymore.
Now for the famous final question: do you consider a hot dog a sandwich?
Do I consider a hot dog a sandwich? I don't think I do. I think, again, like some people have said, hot dogs are hot dogs and sandwiches are sandwiches. But I really enjoy the Archie's foot-long chili dog, and so I'll go with Chris's answer. I consider it a meal.
That's true. I still think Skylines are the best hot dogs.
Well, I really like those too, and I don't get them as often because we don't have it here in town. But I am a Skyline chili dog fan.
But homemade hot dogs are best. That's all, folks.
Thank you for joining today's podcast of Take a Timeout with Dustin Sullivan, a production of Can Do Group. This podcast is made possible by the support of local businesses and community members like you. Thank you. Want to be part of the action? You can help Can Do Group continue supporting adults with developmental disabilities by donating at www.candogroup.org.